All right, hey everyone. So, if you're a student, a young professional, or honestly just someone who spends any amount of time staring at a phone, I really need you to listen to me carefully today. In this explainer, I'm kind of stepping into the role of a protective teacher, because I need to prepare you for this invisible digital battlefield that you're walking onto every single day. Look, your phone isn't just a neutral tool anymore. It's an active, highly contested zone. And that brings us to this core idea. Passive consumption is a vulnerability. Seriously, let that sink in for a second. If you want to survive the modern digital landscape, you've got to stop being a passive consumer, just, scrolling on the couch, and start acting like an active combatant. Right now, these algorithmic systems are treating your attention like a natural resource to be strip-mined. It is absolutely time to fight back.
So consider this your tactical briefing overview. Today, we are taking back your cognitive liberty. We're going to map out the invisible digital battlefield, decode the algorithm's weapons, learn how to survive the emotional trap, expose hypocrisy and illusions, and finally, we'll build out your tactical defense arsenal. Let's jump right into part 1, the invisible digital battlefield. Because, well, the first step to surviving any conflict is recognizing that you're actually in one. These digital environments are not neutral. The screen you're staring at is a battlefield. It's not a broadcast. If you look at how this ecosystem is structured, you've got these massive tech servers essentially launching targeted psychological exploits directly at your brain. They aren't just innocently broadcasting content for your entertainment. Their actual objective is your attention, and they're using things like infinite scrolling and engineered outrage to harvest your cognitive liberty.
And the cost of this warfare is frankly staggering. Think about this. 4 hours a day of mindless scrolling equals 60 entire days of conscious life lost every single year. 60 days. That's not just a bad habit, right? That is a severe biological danger. This infinite scroll breeds complacency and just invisibly steals your time. We literally have to treat this as an active threat to your life.
Okay, moving on to section 2, decoding the algorithm's weapons. To fight back effectively, we have to break down the exact tools these platforms are using to keep you hooked and disoriented.
I want you to think of this like putting on a pair of X-ray glasses. On one side, you have the illusion, where a short video makes an issue feel absolutely massive and incredibly urgent. But then look at the reality. The algorithms are often just using hyper-editing, urgent music, super fast cuts, to mask what is actually incredibly weak logic. When it looks like everyone agrees on something, you are very often just looking at bot farms and click farm networks completely fabricating a fake consensus. A million accounts liking a post absolutely doesn't mean a million actual humans care.
One of their sneakiest weapons is actually color. App designers weaponize those bright red notification badges to hijack the ancient hunter-gatherer instincts right in our basal ganglia. It's a literal biological trap. So what's your immediate defense? Visual de-escalation. Go into your settings and switch your phone to grayscale mode. When you strip the color away, the whole interface just becomes dull. And that allows your rational prefrontal cortex to step in and override that impulsive neurochemical clicking.
Now let's look at section 3, surviving the emotional trap. Because the algorithms know perfectly well that the absolute fastest way to grab your attention is straight through your feelings. Your own outrage is literally being weaponized against you.
Let's run a quick mock scenario here. Imagine you're just scrolling along, and suddenly a video pops up that makes your blood absolutely boil. You feel this instant, intense indignation. Well, this is what we call the guerrilla war of the mind. To resist this kind of emotional priming, you need to execute what I call a dopamine pause. You just stop, take a breath, identify the specific emotion that the video is practically demanding you to feel. Simply naming that emotion right then and there neutralizes its power over you. And you have to ask yourself this exact question every single time you feel that sudden spike of anger. Did I just get informed or did I just get played? Because honestly, 9 times out of 10, that outrage was engineered purely for retention. It's specifically designed to demonize some group just so you'll stay on the app longer to argue with strangers in the comments.
So, to break that spell, deploy a tactic we call the silent watch. The next time you come across one of those highly viral, super aggressive rants, just watch it on mute. Seriously, try it. When you strip away the frantic, urgent music and all the auditory manipulation, the wildly exaggerated facial expressions and the total lack of actual evidence become glaringly obvious. The whole illusion just completely shatters.
Which brings us perfectly to section 4, exposing hypocrisy and illusions. The digital world is incredibly good at building these fake realities around you, and here is exactly how you break them down.
The algorithm basically traps you in a filter bubble. Think of it like a mirrored room where you only ever hear your own echoes. It's designed to create this really dangerous illusion of absolute certainty. So to escape that snare of groupthink, you've got to apply a command and control strategy. This means intentionally going out of your way to follow articulate, high-quality accounts from opposing viewpoints. You literally have to force the algorithm to show you the other side to corrupt its isolation tactics.
Another really great tool for this is the polarity strategy. Look, manipulators online rely heavily on double standards to maintain their power. But you can expose this by spotting identical behaviors that get completely opposite consequences, based entirely on who is doing them. For example, notice how a public protest might be framed as heroic expression when it aligns with one specific narrative, but then it's labeled a dangerous riot when it aligns with another. When you make these side-by-side visual comparisons in your head, the hypocrisy becomes impossible to ignore. You'll instantly start seeing through these rules for thee but not for me tactics everywhere.
You also really need to realize that 1 million likes is not an undeniable truth. This is what we call the boutique consensus. Please do not fall for the spectacle. High engagement metrics are really just raw intelligence. They have to be aggressively verified, not just accepted as a conclusion to be blindly trusted. Always remember, volume does not equal validity.
And finally, we reach Section 5, your tactical defense arsenal. We've diagnosed the threats out there, but now I want to empower you with some specific, actionable, military-inspired countermeasures.
First up is the maneuvering momentum strategy, which is also known as pre-bunking. The idea here is don't wait to be manipulated. Learn about common tactics like scapegoating, fear-mongering, or flooding the zone before you ever actually encounter them online. By understanding the mechanics of these traps in advance, you're effectively giving yourself a psychological vaccination. So when you finally do see that tactic out in the wild, you simply won't fall for it.
Next, you can step up as an active combatant by applying the intelligence strategy. Information warfare completely relies on uncertainty, but you can counter that by forming or joining truth squads with your peers. Track official lies, document retaliatory patterns, and post verified corrections and real statistics in real time. By doing this, you're establishing patterns of deception so that other people can see the truth affirmatively.
Then, I highly recommend implementing the verification tax. You see, misinformation spreads like wildfire because consuming a 30-second lie costs absolutely zero effort. So you need to establish a self-imposed fact tax. Make a rule. For every highly controversial short video you consume, you force yourself to locate and read one long-form source on that exact topic. The sheer friction of that requirement acts as a massive deterrent against mindless, passive scrolling.
And all of this really builds up to your ultimate defense, algorithm poisoning. This is where you intentionally start searching for highly dense, completely unrelated, or just boring, mundane technical topics. If your feed is usually all pop culture, suddenly start searching for, tractor maintenance or obscure 14th century history. You are essentially throwing handfuls of sand straight into the algorithm's finely tuned categorization engine.
Because here's the reality. You cannot win a war of attrition if you're just relying on willpower alone to resist the algorithm. The house always wins that game. You can only win by actively disrupting its data. You've got to sabotage the machine's intelligence by actively poisoning your own data profile. Stop trying to just outlast the machine. Break it. So, let's quickly review the digital warfare matrix. We are fighting across 3 distinct theaters simultaneously. The cognitive threat uses outrage hooks. You counter that with the dopamine pause. The biological threat uses the infinite scroll. You defeat that with grayscale mode. And the social threat uses fake consensus. You beat that by verifying intelligence and genuinely humanizing the other side. True victory requires a systematic deployment across all 3 fronts.
I want to leave you with this final thought. The invisible battlefield is currently active, right now, in your pocket. The tools for manipulation are constantly evolving, sure, but so is your tactical arsenal. So, are you going to remain a passive consumer, just letting algorithms harvest your days and dictate your emotions, or are you ready to actually sabotage the system and take back your mind? The choice is entirely yours. Stay sharp out there.